Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about timing today. So people use that word, and in my experience, they often don't really understand it properly, or misunderstand it or misinterpret it in some way. So I want to try and share with you the way I think about timing, and hopefully it will be helpful for you. So the sequence of movement from the top of the backswing out through into the follow through is the bit that most people are talking about when they say that the timing is wrong. And it's very similar to other sports like a tennis shot or a throwing action in baseball, for instance, in that it goes from the ground up. It should go from the ground up. So it should be sort of the lower body starts the movement, and then the upper body's pulled through, and then the arms come through, and then the hands, and then the club. So setup and impact should be completely different. They should be a completely different position. So from face on, your setup should look like that, and then your impact position should look like that. And then when you're looking at it from down the line here, your setup position should look like that, and then your impact position should look like that. So in order to achieve that, what you need to do is feel from the top of the backswing that you turn your left side, turn your left hip really is the best way, or you think of it as your center of your body from the top of your knees to the bottom of your rib cage. That's the part of your body that should initiate the movement through and lead the way. And think of it as in terms of you turning your body to make room for the arms and the club to come through, and then your arms will naturally have come through and have room to be able to come through correctly, and then the club will pass through. So you basically, for most people, thinking about turning the lower body is the best way to improve the timing, because when people do mistime the shot, it's often the initial cause, the root cause is often caused by keeping their head down too much, and they often sort of get this sort of swing where they'll go like that, and that will hit the ground behind the ball, or the bottom of the swing will be well behind the ball with that sort of movement. So as I say, it's a case of turning the lower body first. So the movement should look more like this, where you get to the top of the backswing and then you turn, and then when you do that, you'll see that the club will hit just after where you're aiming, like we talked about in the other videos earlier on. Whereas bad timing is when somebody goes like this, they either swing the arms before the body, and that will again normally push the club out on the bad line, but also it will be mistimed because the arms will get there first. The club will often hit the ground before the ball. So casting is also a form of mistimed shots, in that casting is more the club. So when somebody sort of casts the club and the club goes first instead of the body, again, that can cause big problems and a huge loss of distance. But again, we're all at home, we can't get on the golf course, so in some ways it's an opportunity, because you haven't got the ball to make you react in a good way or a bad way, so you can focus more on how it feels, which is, to be honest, a lot of the time the shortcut to really improving. So thinking of understanding this timing concept, and then trying to actually become aware, and maybe use video ultimately would be the ideal, but become aware of whether your movement is arms first or body first. And as an incentive to try and get you to do that, a lot of people, most golfers, when you speak to them, know somebody that they play with or have played with who hit the ball a lot further than they do. And people often say to me, oh, this person's got a really unorthodox swing. He doesn't do any of the things that you tell me to do, and he hits the ball 30 yards past me. And what is often the case, 9 times out of 10 with that scenario, is that that person might have an unorthodox swing, but they get the timing part right. So you got somebody who sets up all wrong, their grip is wrong, their backswing is awful, but then the timing of the movement is lower body first, and they do this, and the club comes in late, then they hit the ball the long way. Whereas you can get somebody who spends so much time on the setup and the aesthetics of it almost, and does this lovely position to the top of the backswing, and then just does that and hits with the hands and arms, and they will hit the ball a very short distance and often hit the ground behind the ball. So timing is not only something that's going to improve the strike and the consistency, but also it makes a massive difference to the distance that you hit the ball. So think of it in terms of from the top of the backswing, lower body first or the center of your body first, if you relate to it better that way. And you'll see where it hits. When you do better timing, the club will hit the ground where you're aiming or even after where you're aiming. If you do it wrong and either your arms go first or you cast the club, you'll hit the ground before where you're aiming, and it has a huge detrimental effect. So I hope that helps.